I'd like to invite Kathy Napper up, one of the Cedar Laners that went to GA, to light the chalice. Not quite yet.
Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is breaking in my soul. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Bright morning stars are rising. Day is breaking in my soul.
So welcome to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church, where love works. Together, we explore the eternal, nurture community, and build a more just world. We together dare to embody beloved community. As you can see by the start of the service, this is going to be a very different service. We are going to be hopefully giving you a little bit of the GA experience, and we'll have voices of folks that went to GA to share a little bit about what GA meant to them. But I'd like to invite guests that are here for the first time to stop by our welcome booth after the service. So how many of you attended GA this year? Terrific. Leave your hands up. How many in the audience has ever been to a GA? See, quite a few of us. So I'd say about a third of us know what it's like. So we're going to start by singing one of the hymns that was in a worship service. Actually, it was the opening service. And I invite you to stand in either body or in spirit and sing along in the chorus.
Our
and able, remaining hand in hand, join us in spirit and sing.
Wow, what a kick it is to see you do that. Archene asked me to give a few highlights about General Assembly. This was my 5th GA, and while the basic traditions at this one were familiar, this time it was different in many ways, and I kind of think for the better. Some big differences. With Jim Key's sudden death, there was an interim moderator, and due to the leadership crisis at UUA, the board had appointed 3 co-presidents who did a remarkable job at General Assembly and in their 11 weeks of service leading up to it. Inspiring sermons are always a high point at GA, as is powerful music, as you just heard. This year, it being New Orleans, the music was particularly rich. Each year at GA, we engage in an act of public witness. This year was about sanctuary for undocumented immigrants. A second line set the pace.
Some hands have held the world together.
these hands of mine.
Some hands have blessed 1,000,000 people. Some hands help free the world from evil. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine?
Some hands can stop a life from dying. Some hands comfort a baby crying. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine?
I wanna sing it from my heart. I wanna hear it in the wind till it blows around the world and comes back again. And all that we can ask is for ours to be true, to use them when we want, forever we need. Some hands give voice to a nation. Some hands write the time they are a-changing. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gwen Warman. As you've just heard, GA was and always is a bustling place, a place where we are called to do the work of our faith in community with each other. This was my 9th GA as a Cedar Lane delegate. But this was a little different than some of the past GAs. We went into it feeling a little different about processes, not knowing how exactly it was going to work, and not knowing if we were going to be able to live up to our obligation and our commitment to have dialogue and really get into the work we need to do. But one of the exciting things was that many people attended the Undoing Racism training by the People's Institute for Survival and beyond, prior to the General Assembly. I attended the Grow Racial Justice training. This is a training for specifically young adults, and it's divided into affinity caucuses. which is probably how people have heard of it. Thrive is the cohort for people of color, and Shift is the cohort for white people. We worked separately about 2/3 of the time and then joined together to organize about training and to hear from leaders of Blue and other longtime activists for racial justice. The program was a powerful way to connect with all of the things we knew would be important and fraught at General Assembly. So it was really hard to figure out what to say, and it was definitely impossible to figure out how to say it all in 3 minutes, or whatever, 4 minutes. Right. So the things that I felt were most important from both the training and General Assembly were that first, we need to be in space as white activists where we talk about our identity. But we need to move beyond those spaces and stop waiting to be asked to do other things. The number one response to what should we do, how should we help, is show up. It's not show up and do X. Show up and take charge of Y. It's show up and follow. As Brian Stevenson said, we need to be proximate with each other. We need to show up to be in solidarity. The second was that learning about racial justice for the sake of learning, or always doing it right, is a failure to break free of characteristics of white supremacy that tell us we should intellectualize, that we should spend our time, becoming comfortable with something before we engage with other people. We just have to be uncomfortable. The third is that there is hope and possibility if we can shift from an ally mindset where we are choosing to see other people's problems as our own to an accomplice mindset where we understand that we are all part of this collective struggle for liberation together, and that we do not get to make a choice because this is the struggle for all of us. Our governance system has at times made that hard, but we did incredible work of solidarity this year by choosing to move forward, changing the language of our sources from prophetic words and deeds of men and women to the voices of prophetic people. This is an incredible inclusion of trans people, non-binary people, gender creative, and intersex people. There's so much more incredible stuff that we did, and so many more opportunities for solidarity and ways in which we engaged with it, but I'm over. So thank you for listening, and thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Susan Modak, and I come to this as a real beginner here at Unitarian Church and Cedar Lane and going to church at all, but I found out about the General Assembly from our Sunday news insert and thought it might be a great way to learn a lot more from a different spot. And also it turned out it was in New Orleans, and my sister was going to represent her congregation, so there was a kind of a had to take this opportunity aspect to it. It was, as you heard, and I really appreciate Mary and Gwen's, what they said, because I was so new at it that a lot of it didn't occur to me or didn't come, I didn't see it all or hear it all or know about it all, but I really appreciate what both of them said. My main feature of my experience was that I decided to commit myself to being in the choir, which was 4 days of an hour and a quarter rehearsal that was, I'm telling you, very energetic and demanding hour and a quarter. And it also meant you couldn't do anything, kind of around that. So it is a commitment that I was very happy to make. And amazing 150 voices, amazing director, Mark Vogel, amazing rehearsals where we learned this stack of music in 4 days and found the soloists, they were developed during that 4-day period. And it was just amazing. I liken it to being in part of a jet engine where he would ask for something, and then there was the gas, and it came out. It was very big and wonderful. The other things I did besides the choir, well, actually being in the choir on Sunday with the thousands of people was just simply amazing, and I'll never forget it. And it was my birthday, so it was a great way to spend my birthday, to start my birthday anyway. Let's see, what else did I do at GA? I spent quite a bit of time in the vendor area where you can buy stuff, swag, UU swag. And also, I found that a great place to learn about the different organizations and interest groups that are included in the UU umbrella that I didn't know about necessarily. And they had people there, happy to talk to you as much as you want to talk about their group. It was wonderful. We attended a gala where Linda Sarsour, if you remember her name, she was one of the several co-national directors or chairs of the Women's March, and she received an award from the Social Justice Committee, and that was very nice to be in the room with her and hear her speak and have a chance to see her. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I spent 2 workshops with Robin DiAngelo, who really kind of, maybe not during what she said, because when I was listening to her, I was agreeing and learning and listening, but later I just kind of had this kind of huge realization about my place in the race conversation. So that won't be forgotten, and actually I'm really working to build on that and make that more central. Had a wonderful dinner with the Cedar Lane members, and I attended just about 1 hour of business meeting, and Robert's rules were getting quite a workout. It was a lot of fun to see democracy in action and hear Cedar Lane members and lots of other people making their points. It was quite wonderful. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Jim lived a full and fast life, and he was remembered with honor with his family last Saturday in Beaufort, South Carolina. Today's service, we are focusing mainly on his volunteer service to Unitarian Universalism that included his home congregation where he and Liz were founding members, his service to the district as board president, and his service to the UUA. I believe in my heart that Jim would want to be remembered for his passion and vision for Unitarian Universalism. He's so often referred to as his saving faith. He carried with him a belief he held deeply. That as Unitarian Universalists, we are called to collaborate with each other and with other faiths and community groups to transform ourselves and society, and to do it in a way that promotes peace, liberty, and justice for all, fueled by love and compassion, and wrapped with many moments of laughter. Jim gave almost 20 years of his life to Unitarian Universalism until his death on June 2nd, 2017 in Savannah, Georgia. His loss to us as a religious body is vast because we loved him. And in his dying days, Jim especially felt your love for him. May our love for each other and for this great faith give us the courage to speak of our gratitude of Jim's life, who would want us to live out our faith with great hope that all will be well.
This morning's offering will be given and greatly received as our musicians sing, "All Will Be Well."
I said, Julian, you are holy. You are holding my hand. And Julian, you are holy. You are holding my hand. And she said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of pain.
What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has.
Probably say first that the kind of hope I often think about, I understand above all as a state of mind, not a state of the world. Either we have hope within us, or we don't. Hope is definitely not the same thing as optimism. We don't. It is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how the certainty that something makes sense.
This when
about cruelty and
we know for sure.
It brought me to
what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. The revolution has come. What a time to be alive. When we stand up, we've already won. What a time to be alive. What a time to be alive.
I have shared with many of you in various settings my personal story of having been diagnosed with stage 4 non-small cell lung cancer in 1999. The morbidity rates were grim. 5% of those so diagnosed might live for 1 year. Only 1% might live for 5 years. I quickly imagined that I'd be in the 1%. Imagining the healing provided by good science, amplified by the unconditional love of family and friends, was incredibly powerful. Imagine a healthy Unitarian Universalist community that is alive with transforming power, moving in our communities and the world towards more love, more justice, and more peace.
When I said all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things. We've already well. We've won. Revolution. I said, Julian, you are holy. You are holy. And Julian, you are holy. You are holding my hand. And she said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. She said, baby girl, do you not know about tenderness? And baby girl, do you not know about friends? She said, baby girl, do you not know about the spirit? And baby girl, do you not know it's only love that never ends? And she said, all will be well. All will be well, all manner of things will be well. She said, all will be well, all will be well, all manner of things will be well.
I'm John Gubbings. I'm John Gubbings. I went to the GA to help Unitarian Universalists for Social Justice organization explore legislative advocacy collaboration with UUs for a UU Just Economic Community, the UU Ministry for Earth, and the Coalition of UU State Advocacy Networks. And to try to figure out what to think of Black Lives of UU's organizing collective, known as BLUU or BLUE, which I heard had been given $5.3 million by the UUA Board of Trustees. I had no idea the UUA board could do that. Actually, the board committed long-term to raising the money and guaranteed payouts against the UUA endowment unrestricted funds. The decision came at an unusual UUA board meeting preceded by a retreat with leaders of the Middle Project in New York City and key UUA staff concerning support of the Black Lives Matter movement. All the UUA president candidates participated as well. The UUA website story says initially payouts from the $5.3 million in long-term funds will go toward organizing ongoing work, including creating healing spaces for Black people, in person and online, growing more opportunities for pastoral care specifically for Black UUs, continuing to develop relationships with non-Black UUs of color, providing resources for white anti-racism work among UUs, and providing direct support to congregations during times of racialized conflict. Jim Key, UUA moderator at the time, said, I look at things from a governance lens in trying to assess the risk. To me, doing nothing or doing something more timid was a greater risk to our movement and the values we say we have, and to the way we live in the world. It would put our overall mission at risk, not to deal with society's most pressing issues at the time. It was clear to me the trio of the interim co-presidents of the UUA were fully engaged with and supportive of Blue and what it intends to accomplish. One of them, Bill Singford, left our faith after a similar effort failed in 1970. He came back and served as UUA president from 2001 to 2009. This is crazy. I'm sorry. I'm too old for this. The Blue executive director is Lena Gardner. She's one of the co-founders and leaders of the Black Lives Matter Minneapolis chapter, works for the UU Church of the larger fellowship, and is one of the founding leaders of Blue. She has a Master of Arts in Justice and Peace Studies. I came away confident in Blue and UUA leadership.
It is a good day to be together and to remember and reflect upon what was a truly pivotal assembly in our association. Now, 2016 was the first time that I actually attended General Assembly, and my journal reflection from day one states, what do you get when you put 4,000 Unitarian Universalists in a single room with an open mic that anyone can speak at and an invitation to debate issues of import? I know, it sounds like the opener of yet another joke about Unitarian Universalists and how Robert rules is our sacred text. But what I've experienced in our General Assembly business sessions is passion, sometimes disappointment, democracy, and the promise of a better future. That hopeful feeling stayed with me throughout most of the year last year. Heading into this General Assembly, however, I wasn't quite sure what to expect.
Was democracy still alive? Would our association face another terrible split like we did after the walkout in the late 1960s? Turmoil in our association's leadership could have led to implosion. But instead of that happening, several unexpected leaders rose up from the ranks to help us usher into a new age of being. In the 60s, we retreated from issues around race in our association. But this year, 2017, was the year when we decided to lean in. We had a team of moderators instead of just one. Several people moved into that role after Jim Key's sudden passing. We had 3 co-presidents this year. The Reverend Sophia Bentoncourt became the first ever female president. Dr. Leon Spencer moved into the role of becoming the first lay leader to hold the office of president in our association. And the Reverend Dr. Bill Sinkford, even though he manages a large congregation in Oregon, agreed to reclaim his role as president. A combination of ministers, seminarians, and lay people comprised the Right Relations team, and I promise you, they were the hardest working team at General Assembly. Their role was to help keep us in covenant with each other, to have difficult conversations, but then come back together and remember what it is that binds us. That is our covenant. The Reverend Teresa Inez Soto gave voice once again to ableism in Unitarian Universalism from the floor of the plenary. The results of their efforts included the Assembly voting to rename Standing on the Side of Love. This popular campaign is actually quite exclusive to those of us who roll for justice. The Reverend Jason Selton, who, if anyone has seen the song Standing on the Side of Love in the Teal hymnal, Reverend Jason Shelton wrote that song and renamed it Answering the Call to Love earlier this year, recognizing that the song itself is ableist. My work at General Assembly involves serving in 2 main capacities. I volunteered as a small group facilitator for Beloved Conversations. This is a program which was created by the Sophia Lyon Foz Educational Collaborative, and I think this congregation knows a thing or two about Sophia Lyon Foz, seeing as how y'all are a danger. The program, which is typically 8 weeks in length, is perhaps the greatest spiritual educational tool for Unitarian Universalists. It helps to truly form multicultural communities. It's deeply healing work, and I couldn't think of a better place to do this work than at General Assembly, to introduce Unitarian Universalists across the country who'd never heard about this program to a format that could help heal rifts in the congregation, to provide a platform for difficult conversations around race in a way that strengthens our covenant. I also co-facilitated a workshop on classism, and if you want to give a wave, there were a couple of Cedar Laners that were there. One of the hats I wear is that of commissioner with the Unitarian Universalist Association Commission on Appraisal. The commission was originally created in the early 1900s on the Unitarian side of our heritage, and its purpose was to save the denomination. The charge included surveying the denomination and lifting up areas for growth. Many reports have been written since that very first report. There's one that deals with authority, another that talks about the Black empowerment movement and white fragility, membership, and those are just to name a few. Last year, together with the rest of the commission, we co-authored a report published by Skinner House called Class Action: The Struggle with Class in Unitarian Universalism. Our work involved a deep academic and interpersonal study, And I was thrilled, so thrilled to have some Cedar Laners at the workshop, and I promise you that we'll speak more about this topic at a later date. Ultimately, I left this General Assembly feeling renewed. I felt renewed by the courage of leaders who've helped show us what it means to accept that turmoil can be a vehicle for lasting change when we choose to lean in instead of shrink away from it or try to gloss it over. I feel energized and ready to lean in myself into the difficulties that we'll face as a congregation in the coming year and also as a denomination. Together, we can create true healing and transformation not only in our movement, but also in the world. Let us take these thoughts into a space of prayer and meditation and know that right after the video ends, Rachel is going to lead us by singing one verse of Comfort Me, and then we'll all join right in after her.
I invite us to open our hearts together in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of holiness and mystery of life, God of many names, we come together in praise and possibility to remind ourselves of all that nurtures the best of our human living. We who commit ourselves morning by morning and day by day to be bearers of love and justice in the world find ourselves strengthened by these days of gathering together in common cause and hopeful in our time of new beginnings. Yet we do not forget that even as we are held in the chalice of this community, both in this hall and across the country and globe online, our voices and values are needed perhaps more than ever before to respond to the needs of a hurting world. Our own Universalist heritage teaches us of an all-embracing love that holds us in our living, in recognition of the inherent worth and dignity of all peoples, in celebration of the potential of every one of us, both known and unknown, and resting in the immense potential born of our connections to one another. This love lies at the root of all that might be understood to save us. May it remind us in the moments when we falter that we are part of a greater whole, that our very faithfulness might be key to building the world we so dream about. May it remind us in the moments when we harden our hearts that this greater love preserves the possibility of a world shaped by justice, by wholeness, by a shared communion. May it remind us when we are weary from struggle, contention, or disappointment that there is a larger promise of goodness and kindness and mercy that shelters all. As we enter into a time of brief silence, I invite us to reflect on this all-embracing love and on the promise of this community. Is there an example of that larger possibility that comes to mind for you? And can you offer its grace in silence to our gathering as a whole?
Soul, comfort me.
So, I'm Lee McNair, and I went to GA for the first time this year, but I never left my living room. I went via YouTube. It's not quite the same experience, I'm sure, but it is an experience that you would enjoy if you can't get to GA physically. In no particular order, and paraphrasing, here is some of what I enjoyed. The memorial service for moderator Jim Keyes, of whom his assistant Annette Marquis said, all he would ask of us now is that we love as he loved, that we live each day as though it were our last, and that we leave no one who needs our saving faith outside the door. The 2017 Ware Lecture with Brian Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy. Brian said, the opposite of poverty is not wealth, it is justice. And we will not change the world if we are not willing to do uncomfortable things. The annual award for volunteer service, which went to Blue this year, for extraordinary and vital services to Unitarian Universalism. Susan Frederick Gray, being elected 9th president of the UUA and paying tribute and honor to our first woman president, the Reverend Sophia Betancourt. The Service of Living Tradition, which featured Reverend Cheryl M. Walker. Reverend Cheryl said, the times we live in right now are ripe for great transformational seeds to be planted. And the Unitarian Universalist Ministry tries to plant those seeds every Sunday when they tell us we can change the world. And when not much progress is made in that week, they come back and they tell us again and yet again, over and over, we can change the world. In the words of an old Michael Jackson song that closed the service, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope you'll be at GA next time, if not physically, then via YouTube.
So you heard various voices today of people that went to GA either physically or virtually. And a lot of GA is up online at the UUA website, so you too can experience it and take out moments that resonated for you. For me, GA is an opportunity to connect with old friends, establish new relationships with new people from all around the world. In fact, a friend of mine, the friend that was my friend, and I went to school together 40 years ago in England, and her friend came to help with the mural, and I met a new friend, and now my life is all the richer. But more importantly, I think, it's a chance to see democracy in action as our delegates who represent their congregations, including ours, vote to determine the direction of our association. An Australian activist, Lilia Watson, said, although she prefers the credit to go to a collective, Aboriginal activists in Queensland, Australia in the 1970s said, "If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come here because your liberation is bound up with my liberation, then let us work together." Today marks the 52nd anniversary of the Voting Rights Act in America, and people are still fighting to have access to exercise their right to vote. We need to work on this because all of our liberation is at stake. So think about it. Think about living our Unitarian Universalist faith to make the beloved community right here on earth, not tomorrow, but today. Now please rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, "The Tide is Rising."
With this flame, we say, welcome to Nolens. We send you off this evening with this song written by Rabbi Shoshana Meira Friedman, first sung at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., to lift up Pope Francis' call to action on climate change. The tide is rising, and so are we. Please rise in body or spirit as you're able, and join me in singing. The tide is rising. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. The tide is rising, and so are we. This is where we are called to be. This is where we are called.
Again, good. May our faith sustain us.
Our hope inspire us.
And our love surround us.
As we go our separate ways,
knowing that we will gather again
in this beloved community.
Go in peace.
Amen.